Today's edition of Mac Voices is brought to you by Blue Apron. Blue Apron delivers fresh ingredients and recipes to your door so you can cook something new and interesting tonight. Check out this week's menu and get your first 3 meals free with free shipping by visiting blueapron.com/MacVoices. Blue Apron, a better way to cook. And by the new Mac Voices presence on Facebook. Watch your favorite Mac Voices episodes on our Facebook page and discuss them or anything tech-related in our new Mac Voices Facebook group. Join the party, express your opinion, and make your voice heard. Welcome to Mac Notables on Mac Voices. This is the talk of the Apple community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. Folks, we're fighting the Skype gods just a little bit right now, but we're going to try it anyway and see what happens. And I can't think of anybody better than to fight the Skype gods with than Mr. Adam Engst of TidBITS and Take Control.
I do so enjoy, taking on, I'm looking for one of those terms from the comic books, like the irreversible, the innumerable power of such and that. Where's Andy Anako when we need him?
Yeah, I guess the secondary deities, if you will. How's that?
I think the Skype gods might be pretty far down the list, frankly. Tertiary, quaternary,
I'm not so sure at times. At least
they're in line with the ones that spoil, like the sprites that spoil the milk.
Oh no, I think they're a little farther up than that. At least in my house. Now I don't know about yours, but
yeah, well,
how you been, Adam?
Pretty good. It's been a busy time, but it's actually nice to do something.
Yeah, well, we have some stuff to talk about, but before we do, I want to make sure I get to the possibility of you being eaten by bears. Because when we were setting this up, it's like, okay, I got to do this interview now because I have to go out and do something at night so I don't get eaten by bears. And I didn't understand this at all.
Well, it's not. I don't go. This is night snowshoeing.
And
I don't go snowshoeing at night so I don't get eaten by bears. I go snowshoeing at night so that I have the opportunity to be eaten by bears.
Is this a life
It's a
goal?
very, very low opportunity.
Okay.
This is upstate New York. We don't really have significant bears here one way or another. But no, yes, if you're snowshoeing and you want to go snowshoeing at night, you need a headlamp. And the very first time I did this, it's also a lot harder than running because you're in deep snow, even though these are racing snowshoes that you put running shoes into. And so the very first time I did it, I was borrowing a pair of snowshoes. I'd never done this before. And I had to stay with the group or get dropped in the woods where I didn't know where I was in the dark and was clearly going to be eaten by bears if this happened.
Okay.
So that's the perennial joke. But I mean, realistically, the chances of being eaten by bears are very, very low.
Well, I'm glad to hear it.
Possibly.
Every time I talk to anybody on the Mac Notables panel, I learn something new. Now, I have never heard of racing snowshoes. I mean, this is a new one.
Oh yeah, snowshoe racing is. I won't say it's a big sport because it's not, but it is an actual sport, and you get very specific snowshoes that you basically just put your running shoes into, and you dress basically for running. The only difference is the snowshoes tend to kick snow up, so your back gets wet. So you'll sometimes wear slightly more waterproof clothing. But other than that, it's a lot like trail racing, only slower and harder. And kind of fun to do because it's very soft and you're working harder than you would normally in a trail race.
Okay.
Upstate New York is about the southernmost area you can really do snowshoeing. Once you get up into northern New York and Vermont and whatnot, then it becomes more common.
We don't have these problems on the golf course, Adam. I mean, we occasionally might have an alligator or two to deal with in Florida. Other than that.
Yeah. I mean, you can ski on golf courses, and cross-country races often take place on golf courses. I don't know what they're used for normally. I mean, I just hang around them. So.
We got to get you out and educate you a little bit.
Whacking things with sticks.
Yeah, exactly. It's all very zen. You go from this very relaxed state to this explosive activity, and then back to a relaxed state in the space of.
Yeah, but realistically, I mean, where's the thrill? Where's the danger? Could you be eaten by bears?
No, could not be.
Then come on.
Well, okay, all right. Well, your idea and my idea of good times are clearly different.
I mean, this isn't like the Winterlude Triathlon that Tanya and I just got back from. I mean, there the chance of being eaten by bears was low because it was kind of in urban Ottawa. But it was, skate, ski, run, triathlon. And as I said, not really any bears because it was just too citified. But you could still freeze to death. I mean, that would be a possibility.
Or get mugged?
No. I mean,
okay.
Yeah, it's Ottawa. I mean,
okay, yeah.
Have muggers in Canada? I don't think they're allowed. These are way too nice.
We're going to get so many emails just for this initial.
But the Winterlude Triathlon, I recommend it highly. Anyone who wants a truly nutso experience.
Okay, well, good. That's great. That's great. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
What could be cooler than having a city where you can actually skate 5 miles through the downtown part of the city?
I'm sorry, that you could do what? You could skate, did you say? You
can skate 5 miles on the Rideau Canal in downtown Ottawa.
Oh, okay. Okay,
we have these skates, they're blades, and you put them onto your ski boots, cross-country ski boots. And so you can, go over to one of the places you can get on, put your blades on, skate, 5 kilometers, something like that, pop off, take your blades off, walk to a restaurant, get brunch, get back on the canal, skate home, that kind of stuff. People actually skate to work.
Okay, interesting. And makes perfect sense.
Very, very cool stuff to have 8 kilometers of skating in the middle of your city.
Yeah. Okay. I keep learning things. But I want to make sure we get to what we really came to talk about, and that is that...
we just come about winter sports?
Well,
I thought this was the winter sports podcast. Come on.
Well, it's turning into it rapidly. You all have a new service that is being offered through Take Control. Through TidBITS. Sorry.
Not Take Control. This is TidBITS.
Sorry.
I mean, it's sort of the company, but it's more TidBITS, more on the TidBITS side of things. So yeah, it's called the TidBITS Content Network, and it's a syndicated content service. And so a little bit like Doonesbury or whatnot, where multiple people can subscribe and get the same content. But this is aimed at Apple consultants, resellers, other support professionals, people like that, who need to stay in touch with their customers. So, I mean, so much of real business in the real world, as opposed to the internet world, is about maintaining relationships. So if you have clients, you need to stay in touch with them so that if nothing else, they think of you when you have a problem. I mean, if you're a consultant, that's a lot about what gets people calling you to come in and do more work. And so what consultants are discovering is that one of the best ways to stay in touch with people, while not, picking up the phone every day to chat, when it takes everyone's time and is considered an imposition too, is content marketing in essence, where you're saying, hey, I have the blog, I have a mailing list, I have social media streams, and what I'm putting up there for the people who are connected to me to read is good stuff. This isn't marketing fluff. This isn't, hey, I'm wonderful. Come, why don't you give me a call today? It's, here's this tip. Did you know that you can sign a PDF right within Preview, and here's how to do it? Did you know that, Split View is now available on the Mac, and here's how to invoke it? Those kinds of things where it's not meant to, you're not becoming a full-fledged publisher. I mean, that would kind of be silly, but you're producing something that is useful to your clients who are Mac users or iPhone users or iPad users, and doing so in a way that, is manageable to produce on a regular basis without having to write it yourself. I mean, that's the big deal. I mean, the assumption is if you're a consultant, you know good stuff. But let's face it, who has time to sit down and write articles every day?
Right.
Or even once a week. Believe me, I've been doing this weekly for 27 years. So I know what it's like to sit down and have to write something every week for 27 years. And that's why we're doing it. We're pretty good at it.
It's driven you to go out and be potentially eaten by bears. Wow.
I was going to say, and it doesn't do great things for your sanity if you have to write all this stuff. I'm just saying, I'm looking out for your health here.
Yeah, well, I'm seeing a connection right away. So this is just for consultants. In other words, if I'm not a consultant, and I don't know what your qualifications are for a consultant, but I can't sign up for this.
Anyone could sign up for it, but you probably wouldn't want to. I mean, it's aimed at people who want to be publishing Mac or iPhone or iOS related information. And so an Apple reseller, consultant who, or a professional who is in some ways has an Apple related business that, even, I guess, possibly even like a bookkeeper. If you're a bookkeeper, but you specialize in working on Mac programs and you really don't do Windows stuff at all your clients might be might be Apple users. And this would be something that you could use to have a blog, to have an email newsletter, to keep your social media stuff fresh without having to think of something to say every day, without actually doing all of the writing yourself. So it's not an end user product. It's designed for professionals. So, basically it's $100 a month, which for a consultant or someone like that should be, an hour or two of billable time.
Right.
So hopefully this is saving you more than an hour or two. Yeah, that's kind of what it comes down to, because for subscribers get 4 tips and 4 articles a month. So the idea is to aim for a roughly weekly schedule. And that's something that, again, takes me more than an hour to write. So I strongly suspect it would take a consultant more than an hour to write.
Now, you obviously have quite a bit of quite a few resources behind you, with all the Take Control books, which I'm sure some of this stuff can be drawn from those, or some of maybe just brand new for just the service. I
think that, all the content is completely written fresh. So there's nothing that's excerpted or anything like that. The dirty secret of excerpts and repurposing content is it doesn't work. It never works. And the reason is that there's always some bit of context which is different. And so Take Control, for instance, its book context stuff tends to be written fairly loosely. We have a lot of lists, a lot of screenshots. Try to put that into an article, often doesn't work. Even for making it into a TidBITS article, often really fails. And similarly with TidBITS, the audience knows certain things, that there's a certain voice to them. And so, with TidBITS, I will say things in the first person, but all the TCN content is meant for a consultant or a reseller or whatnot to republish. They can publish under their own name. So, just put their name on it and go nuts. They can publish it under my name if they don't wish to make any changes. And if they want to make changes, they can do so as well. It's a good way to personalize it, make it a little bit more specific to their customers, things like that. And the only thing is that then they really do have to put their name on it.
Right. How about graphic assets with this kind of thing, or is this strictly text?
Oh, no, it's fully illustrated. Okay. So, again, these are the articles are like 400 to 600 words. And honestly, I'm a little bit more towards the 600 most of the time. It's really hard to write a decent article that actually says something useful in 400 words. But yes, fully illustrated. We do, and again, making illustrations. Something we're pretty good at. We've been doing it for a long time. We know how to crop screenshots. We know how to put in callouts, to make a little red box around the right things, the things that you should pay attention to and why you'd want to do that, when you'd want to do that, that kind of stuff. So that's all taken care of. And then a lot of people do blogs in WordPress and other content management systems where an article has a featured photo. And this has been kind of interesting because if you're writing a general article, you're a travel writer or something, sure, it's easy to get a featured photo. You've got a photo of the place you've been, right? Or, if you're writing about dogs or whatnot, you got a photo of dogs. You're writing about computers, there's a real limit to the number of featured photos you can have about the Finder or Pages or something like that. And so what we've done is I actually, when I'm writing the article, I will go and find a royalty-free, no attribution needed photo for this. And it sometimes takes a little while because it's kind of fun. So, for instance, I was writing something about, what was it? I think this one was about decluttering or kind of adjusting the look of things in the Finder on the desktop. Again, people don't know they can do this. People just put up with the standard things. There's a lot of ways you can actually change the view of the desktop so that it looks better the way you want. And for whatever reason, I was thinking that this was something that people were avoiding clutter. And so I did a search on clutter and found this great photo of this, like, I don't know, it's a store in Paris or something like that with just the store windows are 3/4 full of just piled up books and papers and things like that. It's a great photo. And the idea is to illustrate more the feeling of the article, or what the theme of the article is, rather than, oh, I'm talking about the Finder. Mm. And so it's funny because Tanya edits all the articles, and obviously one of the things we're providing is fully edited articles. And she's like, the thing I actually look forward to the most is seeing which photos have gotten picked. And because there's a bazillion photos out there, and it's fun to really be able to focus on some of these neat images, and just have something that can liven up a blog when you actually see these things.
At the risk of going just a little too much inside baseball, are you specifically are you looking for royalty-free stuff, or are you buying royalty-free stuff and having it licensed?
Yeah, no, I'm using sites like Pixabay and Pexals, which are stock photo sites where you can use anything you want for any reason, anything you want there for any reason you want. It's royalty-free and no attribution necessary in any way, shape, or form. And part of that is just to avoid any confusion with other people republishing it. If there were licenses involved, it just gets messy. Yeah. And so, when I'm creating all of this, I can assign my copyright appropriately. So I can say, yes, you have the right to make any changes you want. Any changes you want at all, not a problem. But if I was using other people's stuff under license, that's when it gets funky. So.
Yeah. Well, that's why I asked, because you're right. Yeah. I can just see the spider web of of rights and wrongs.
I mean, some of the impetus for this actually came out of, want to talk inside baseball. It's an interesting problem that the internet has started to run into, which I won't say started in many ways, has been dealing with increasingly over time, which is that there's an infinite amount of content on the internet, right? I mean, literally infinite. From the standpoint of any person. You could never read everything. Even everything that you want to read, you cannot read. There's just too much. And so that has made it increasingly hard for publishers who sell to the end user to convince people they want to buy content, even if it's really good content, even if it's better than what they could find elsewhere on the internet, et cetera, because it's competing against infinite. And so one of the ideas behind TCN, when we came up with this concept, is that there are people who do want to publish. So they're very interested in buying content because they need to create it. If you're an independent Apple reseller, for instance, we have a bunch of Apple resellers who are members, and they know they need to have a blog. They know they need to be sending email to their customers every 2 weeks because that's what they have to maintain that contact. But they just don't have the time, the expertise, all of this, the skills in taking screenshots, all that kind of stuff. And they can outsource it to, some random freelancer, but then that's, are they getting anything that's any good? So, so that's really the idea, is to kind of flip on its head the idea of who's paying for content. Customer, the end user, they're not going to pay for it regardless. Simple fact of the internet these days. So if we can go one step differently in the chain, then hopefully there's people who are interested in paying for the content, are interested in high quality content and all of that, because it's something different they can use. Yeah.
When I first heard about this, I thought, really? I mean, does this make sense? But when you explain it that way, it suddenly makes perfect sense, because you're right. If I go to write a blog post, I can go and take a picture of, I don't know, what's outside in my backyard, or I can find this really gorgeous picture that basically might have the same content. It might have 2 squirrels, a tree, and a corn cob, but it's going to be much, much better. And so that's theoretically, no, not even theoretically, it's going to drive more content because people are attracted to those really gorgeous images.
Well, and similarly, I mean, when you read blogs, how often do you find actual mistakes in the blogs?
Oh, yeah, frequently.
All the time.
Sure.
Because they're not done by professionals who are professional writers and professional editors. That's the thing is that, when here you want to talk about the connection with Take Control, it's that we are deep in all of these topics all the time. So I'll even sometimes write something, and Tanya will, when she's editing it, she'll say, well, what about this? And I'm like, I don't even know that existed, but she's edited the book about it. And so she knows more about, the nitpicky little details sometimes than I do. And like, okay, yeah, we should mention that. Or sometimes I'll just say, no, that's too tweaky. This is a tip. We don't care about, the 5 edge cases that, could come up in this tip because it's just going to be 3 sentences anyway. This is just quick in and out. So yeah, so it's been an interesting ride. We've actually been doing this for a year, so it's newly opened up. But we've been working with a group of independent Apple resellers called ASMC, Apple Specialist Marketing Corporation, and they're all over the country. And they were, great to pilot the concept with, because they really, really needed to have this content available for their customers and to stay in touch. So, again, you're a store, you're having sales, right? It's a standard retail approach. But you want to if you're going to send the email newsletter to your customers, you don't want to just say we're having a sale. That gets old fast, right?
Yeah.
Because you're doing it regularly. But if you say, here's a couple of tips. Oh, we've got this longer article on our website. Oh, and by the way, there's a sale on, or when the person comes to the website, there's a banner that says, hey, there's a sale on. Then that's going to be a more pleasant way of bringing someone in rather than just kind of trying to market to them all the time, kind of the Crazy Eddie approach.
Well, and also, I mean, you start to become noise.
It becomes noise really fast.
Yeah.
Seriously. I mean, this is something that again, we've been publishing long enough, there are people who are like, oh, I want more. I'm like, no, you actually don't. I mean, you can overwhelm an audience very quickly. And something that we found with TidBITS even is just that we don't want to publish more than a certain amount because people can't read it. It's too much. They have lives. Might be great content, but they can't absorb anymore.
Yeah.
And so that's very much the idea of keeping short tips and short articles, is that it's all stuff that you can read in a couple of minutes. A 600-word article is going to take you 5 minutes, 4 or 5 minutes to read at most. And the tips are a paragraph. So they're really in and out. Hey, I didn't know you could do that.
Today's edition of Mac Voices is brought to you by Blue Apron. You can cook something new and interesting tonight when you visit blueapron.com/macvoices. They provide the ingredients and recipes. You have the satisfaction of preparing and enjoying it. A true win-win situation. Blue Apron, a better way to cook. I've been telling you about Blue Apron, about how easy it is to get fresh ingredients delivered right to your door, about the terrific recipes that are not only delicious, but also help you expand your culinary horizons, both from a cooking and an eating perspective. Now, though, I think it's time to show you what the Blue Apron experience looks like by opening one of my very own Blue Apron orders for you. When your Blue Apron box arrives, you may have some idea of what to expect if you check the website, but I think it's more fun just to open it and discover what you're going to have. First, you will see the recipes and some additional information on top. Take a second to see what you'll be enjoying for dinner in the coming days. Be inspired by the photos, maybe browse the ingredients and preparation instructions, and start to get hungry. Next, open the insulated bag and start unpacking the fruits, vegetables, spices, and other ingredients that don't require refrigeration. You'll notice that some are shrink-wrapped so they can't be damaged or break, where others are whole, just like you brought them home from the supermarket. Except there is no supermarket. You'll also notice that there's no waste here. Blue Apron sends you exactly what you need and only what you need, so you don't have anything extra to throw away. Then there are the knickknacks, items that are specific to each recipe, all bundled up separately so you will know exactly what is what when cooking time comes. You pretty much don't need to label an onion, but some ingredients might not be quite as obvious to you. Blue Apron knows that and makes sure that you can't be confused or make a mistake. Next, remove the cardboard divider, and you'll find the top section of the refrigerated area. My Blue Apron order usually arrives at my office, and I'll talk about that in an upcoming episode, so I usually have to wait until the evening to unpack my box. And not only haven't I found the ice packs melted, I haven't even found them mushy. The food is always frozen solid and cold. Between the insulated bags and the ice packs, freshness is simply not an issue. Unpacking the pork, shrimp, beef, chicken, whatever this particular box holds is the last step. The fresh veggies and fruits go into the crisper in the refrigerator, the meat goes into the freezer, and I'm ready to decide which dish I'm going to make for dinner tonight. So that's the Blue Apron unboxing experience. Sort of like a culinary Christmas each time an order arrives. There's a lot more to tell you about Blue Apron, but for now, why not try Blue Apron for yourself? Blue Apron is so serious about you giving them a try, they'll send you 3 free meals, including free delivery, if you visit blueapron.com/MacVoices. Fill out some delivery information, and your first Blue Apron order will be on its way to you so you can do your own unboxing. If you do, send me pictures and let me know how you liked it, because I know you're going to like it. You will love how good it feels and tastes to create incredible home-cooked meals with Blue Apron. So don't wait. blueapron.com/MacVoices for 3 free meals and free delivery right to your door. Nothing to lose, everything to gain. Blue Apron, a better way to cook. Thanks to Blue Apron for their support of MacVoices. So you deliver graphics or graphic assets. You deliver the articles. What format do you deliver them in so that I can easily move them over to my newsletter creator of choice?
Well, so that's been a really interesting question. And so what we're doing is we've got a WordPress site set up for this. And so people who are members, they actually get a custom RSS feed. And they could, of course, just come to the site, copy and paste. Copy and paste, my favorite technology of the last 50 years. I mean, maybe not 50 years, 40 years. 40 years. The copy and paste goes a long way. But the fact is that the better thing to do is if you can subscribe to our RSS feed in some way, simple as a normal RSS reader, or there's actually plugins for content management systems to be able to bring in an RSS feed and have the articles just appear in your content management system. And so the idea is in theory, if you set this up right, you don't have to do anything. You just get sort of draft posts showing up in your site. And then you can go in and edit them and tweak them and make sure they're ready and then schedule them for when you want them to go live. We've looked at other various ways of doing things, but the problem is that there's so many possibilities. So if you're doing an email newsletter, there's just no telling, where it could be coming from or what you could be putting it into. And so we're staying fairly general for the moment. If people came to us and said, oh, we really want X, and a lot of people wanted that particular way of getting it, then we could obviously provide something in that format. But so for the moment, it's just HTML that's more easily grabbed via RSS.
And you can also cut and paste out of something like that. You would have to do that much more work for the graphic assets, but you could definitely move that over into, say, MailChimp or something like that. Precisely.
I mean, MailChimp's actually pretty good at pasting formatted text and graphics into. I mean, I've even done that with Google Docs. So, that's, you can do a lot of stuff there. And MailChimp actually is something that, I'd recommend people looked into for doing email newsletters. There's a nice app, a Mac app called Mail Designer Pro, which might be a good way if you're actually it integrates with MailChimp, but it's a way you can actually work on your Mac to get things looking the way you want. I mean, the problem with email newsletters, honestly, is that you can put a whole lot of effort in and then have it break horribly when someone views it on some strange system or just a smaller screen even. So often simpler is better with email, unfortunately.
It's the world today. But I think you just opened the door to an interesting consideration here that you could do it. I mean, there are a lot of ways you could distribute this. The RSS, honestly, I had not even thought about. I'm thinking download or email delivery or something. But Google Docs, maybe a Slack channel. I mean, there's so many ways to distribute things now that it's a real challenge to come up with something that. Oh, not all that long ago, we would have said there are certain standards. Yeah.
Well, the problem is, in part, the other thing is that you want this to be manageable, right? So when you've got subscribers, you want it to be accessible only to the subscribers and not to everyone else. And you don't want to be manually saying who's a subscriber and who's not, like you might have to in a Google Doc, for instance, or a shared Dropbox folder. I mean, you can. I mean, it's possible. Don't get me wrong, but if you can avoid that, you don't want to. So that's the beauty of the way we've got our site set up is that once you sign up for TCN at tcn.tidbits.com, you've got access to that site, and it will automatically take you to the post page showing all the posts, and you can click on one and copy out of it, or as I said, get that RSS feed at any time. And that's, as I said, the RSS feed really is going to be the best thing, because one thing to keep in mind is that people only get access to the articles for the month they're published. Because if you got access to all the back articles, that wouldn't really be very fair, because the person who subscribes this month and pays for 6 months, and then someone comes in July, if they got access to all the back months for 1 month subscription, that doesn't seem fair at all. So, so basically the idea is to encourage people to get the content, download it locally, manage it locally in whatever system you might be using. And I've already heard from people using, really interesting systems. Some guys using, it's called Jekyll. And it's a system that, builds a static website. You feed it files, and it just, spits out a static website with everything linked up and in your template and all that. So kind of cool. But again, there's no way I can predict what everyone's going to be using. I have to provide something which is, a sufficiently general format that hopefully everyone can make use of it pretty easily. And I think even like NetNewsWire or a standard RSS reader would be a great way to just suck this stuff in and hold it.
Yeah, but there's a point that I haven't thought about, is just the fact that there's going to be, well, eventually it'll be legacy content. And you're right, it's not quite fair to have somebody have access to all that if they weren't paying for it. This is not one of those kind of services. This is, so many articles a month, as you said. And,
right. And you certainly get, and you have, complete rights to them forever once you've paid for them once. Right. So, as long as you're a subscriber in that month, that content, because some people, they may not want to be publishing an article and a tip a week. They might want to publish, every 2 weeks, or, hold things and, do a collection of tips. There's all sorts of possibilities. They could even, you could even move stuff over and, print like business card things with the tips on them. If you're, say, an authorized service retailer, service center person, and then, put a business card in with every Mac that you fix. Just got your logo and the tip. Some person opens it up. I don't know if you've ever bought anything from Small Dog, but you get the cute little plastic dogs.
Sure.
It was kind of fun to get those. And same thing. If you get a business card, that's boring. But if you give us a business card with a tip on it, you're like, oh, cool. I didn't know about that. I'll put it on my desk. So, there's all sorts of possibilities there, and it's just a matter of, people having the information available such that when they get an idea for some way to, promote the business in a practical fashion, they can do so easily with the content.
I'm going to be that guy. Sorry.
You're always that guy.
Well, yeah, I try not to be, but sometimes.
It's sort of your job, isn't it?
Well, in a way, yeah. So question one, I know you all have a lot of volunteers who translate into other languages. Is there any thought eventually about doing this in multiple languages?
I hadn't gotten there.
Okay.
Totally don't know. So, okay. Yes, and the problem is the volunteers, we do have volunteers who translate TidBITS into Japanese and Dutch. Somewhat odd combination, but those are our heavy-duty, enthusiastic volunteer translation teams. And so, much as we, love those translations, I don't know that they would be the ones that people would want. What consultants would, and I don't know, where are a lot of Mac consultants in other parts of the world? Probably Brazil. Brazil's a big Mac country. Germany. We do know German translators. We've had a German translation of TidBITS over the years. China's getting huge, but we don't really know any Chinese folks who translate at the moment. So I don't know. Feels to me like that's further off. Possibility, but not worried about that right now.
Yeah, I would think so. All right, here's my other question. Any consideration, as we were talking about having all this legacy content, of selling access to that? I know some of it's going to go out of date by the very nature of tips and tricks, but would that be something you would consider at some point? If I said, gee, I need more than what you're giving me. Could I buy access to some of that stuff? Yeah,
we've had a couple of requests for that already, actually, and some of the early ones, which we set everything up, didn't ever actually happen. It's like people are like, oh, we want this. And no one actually came and bought it. So we're like, okay, fine. But yes, that's just one of those things I need to figure out how to do. People really want the entire archive of content. It's a fair amount. I think we have 115 articles and tips total or something like that now. And some of the stuff is not really useful anymore, because one of the things we do is it's the 4 articles and 4 tips a month. But if Apple comes out with some big, new announcement, we're going to provide a bonus article. So, we can't predict when that's going to happen. So we can't say there's always going to be a news article every month. But at the same time, of course, any kind of Apple professional is going to want the latest news from Apple to send off to their clients. Yes, we've just introduced a new, 17-inch iPad Pro. Wouldn't you want to tell people about that? Sure. So of course, we're doing that for TidBITS on the day it's happening. So, the next day I can tighten it down and get it into something like 600 words with screenshots and all that. So, that does happen. And those articles in the past, the articles we've done in the past, probably not so interesting anymore because they are, news that happened long ago.
Well, not a lot of this stuff stays evergreen. I mean, some things have longer legs than others, but
it's true, and it is interesting going back and looking at some of the older stuff and saying, "Oh yeah, that one's still pretty good," or "Wow, that really turned out to not be a big thing."
Yeah.
And even with TidBITS, and less so with Take Control, we're pretty good with Take Control. But remember when Finder tagging was going to be a really big deal?
Oh, absolutely. That was a huge deal.
Do you know anyone who relies heavily on Finder tags? I mean, I'm sure there's some people, but
yeah, I don't know anybody that relies heavily. I don't even know anyone that relies on.
Tanya said she's using a Finder tag for one thing now. I can't remember what it was, but to remind her that she's uploaded something or done something. But yeah, it's just it's not a technology that really caught on. And so we've even had book proposals for books about how to do tagging. I'm like, well, that'd be great, but no one uses it. So and we can't really convince everybody to use it with the books. So. So if we did an article about that would be something where you can go back and like, yeah, maybe not so much.
Yeah. Well, that too is interesting. I was thinking of things that just go out of date. They phase in or phase out of the Mac OS or the app space, but I hadn't thought about the fact that some technologies that you could put a lot of effort into just don't pan out from an interest standpoint.
That said, I actually just did an article about Dashboard. Remember Dashboard?
Sure. Yeah, still there.
So I mean, the thing is with Dashboard as a technology is not very interesting with one exception, which is web clips. And you can still make web clips, which are just, it's just like a little cutout of a web page. And then you push your key to get Dashboard and your little web clip comes up and loads instantly. And so to rewind slightly in the conversation, this Winterlude Triathlon that we went up to do in Ottawa, we actually had to wait until the last possible minute to register because it wasn't cold enough and the ice wasn't frozen. So the canals weren't open for skating. And there's a web page you can go to at somewhere in the Ottawa government that tells you what the ice conditions are. And so I was loading that page every day. Trying to figure out, whether or not we were going to be able to go because we weren't going to go if we couldn't skate. And so, that was something where like, oh yeah, this would be really handy if I could just bring it up with a key press. And lo and behold, that's what Dashboard is for. It still exists. It's still totally functional in Sierra, but people don't think about it. Been there for years and years and years and years. And it was a big deal when Apple first introduced it. Lots of developers came up with widgets, and now no one uses it. So no one thinks about it. But that doesn't mean that it's not the solution to certain problems.
There's so much stuff built into the Mac OS that either never caught on or, you're right, only solves a certain set of problems or maybe has a specific use.
And for many people, it may even be used by lots of other people. They just don't know about it.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of the stuff. A lot of what we're trying to talk about is things that particularly this is because TCN content is totally Apple. So it's all, Mac and iOS, but we tried it for a sort of a rough balance between Mac and OS each month. So, roughly 2 tips and roughly 2 articles on each. And particularly in iOS, you're just never going to discover this stuff. It really, like, how would you know that if you are in the settings app, if you pull down from the top of the screen, which you wouldn't think to do because you're at the top of the screen, you pull down, that reveals the search field.
Right.
Obviously that's going to become a little bit more common since other apps have started to do it. But particularly when that first appeared, it's a terrible interface. It's utterly non-discoverable. Someone has to tell you. You're not going to figure it out. So that's the kind of thing where, if we can tell people, hey, did you know that this is here? And particularly as at the settings app in iOS, there's all sorts of fabulous stuff buried in there that you will have trouble finding.
I don't know. It always intrigues me the way you take a core set of skills, twist them a little bit, and repackage them or send them to a new audience. I mean, I think it's amazing. And you point out things that a lot of us forget, that you are professional editors and professional writers. And there are different markets for that. It's not just a book market or a website publishing market or an electronic newsletter market. There are lots of markets out there. And you just kind of, it's always very considered and very targeted. And I'm sure there are things that you've tried that haven't worked out. But it's interesting to try to crawl inside your head.
Well, the fact is we're almost 50, and, not that we aren't, couldn't learn new skills, but the fact is we're really good at these ones. And, and it seems a shame to give that up in some way. So if there's ever ways that, and part of it is I think the worlds have changed. I mean, one of the things about consulting actually is that there are Genius bars now, right? You can walk into any Apple store and in theory, essentially go talk to a consultant for free. So consultants are having to adjust how they do business as well. But it's those skills that make, that form the core of it. So yes, you can walk into a Genius bar if you have an appointment, if they're not too busy, if you can carry whatever it is, like if your problem is with an iMac and backup drives, good luck. Have fun schlepping that around to a Genius bar, especially if you don't. You want to make an appointment because, boy, you don't want to get there with your schlepped stuff and then like, oh, sorry, it'll be 4 hours. Yeah. So, so I think that some of the, what consultants have been dealing with, particularly with end users, is having to compete with Apple. That's a tough job, but you can do it as long as you take your core skills and, focus them on slightly different audiences, make a big deal about, how someone will come to your house and fix your problem and possibly, even see other problems while they're there, because that's the whole point of, on-site stuff. And just, the world has changed. We all have to adjust. But if we, it doesn't mean we should give up everything that we did in the past.
I know you have to go to do your night snowshoeing and potentially be eaten by bears. But at the end of the day, where do we send consultants and anybody else who wants to learn what this is all about? What do you have a dedicated website set up, or how's that working?
Yeah. So the best thing to remember is TCN, TidBITS Content Network, tcn.tidbits.com.
Excellent. So,
yep, dedicated website, should explain it all. Even a video of me. I got to go and do video stuff, it was actually kind of fun doing, because I was working in WordPress, and there's a plugin called Divi, D-I-V-I, which lets you do astonishing levels of design. It has a bit of a learning curve, honestly. But one of the very cool things about Divi is that actually it gives you a visual builder, so you can see your entire page and just like click on stuff and make changes. Without, so it's not like you're going back even to, it has sort of a normally like a back end, like blocks interface where you're putting different blocks into place and putting settings in. So it was actually a lot of fun to be able to get into a new system and do all that. And then simultaneously, when I was setting up the system that handles all the membership stuff, the CSS for that just wasn't agreeing. And, dropping down into doing fancy CSS overrides. So
like you had nothing else to do.
Oh yeah, no, never have anything else to do. Because I sit around eating bonbons most of the time.
Yep, that's why you have to go night snowshoeing to work off the bonbons.
So yeah, no, it's always good just to. I mean, as I say, you want to talk about needing to do new things. It's not like I want to become a web designer or anything, but I mean, those of us who've been around, we do everything, right? I mean, the world became specialized, but when we started doing all this stuff 10, 15, 20 years ago, there weren't specialties, so you had to be able to do everything, and. So, I mean, I will fully admit that, building a top-notch modern website, yeah, can't do that. I don't have the programming skills and whatnot. But for building something that is, a couple of pages and looks super cool and has all this functionality, I can put the blocks together. And, I know enough about all that. And it's fun to be able to, pretend that I can still do everything.
Even with the specialization, it still helps to know a little bit about some of this stuff so you can do some troubleshooting, so you can at least talk semi-intelligently with the people who really are the experts and understand when they're trying to shine you on, when they're telling you the truth. Just
Yeah. No, it's absolutely the case. And, and I said it's, part of it is just, I think Apple users have long wanted to know a little bit more. No, we don't want to read manuals. But if you can just tell me a little bit more about how to do this, then I can be more capable, more functional. And that's really what it comes down to. I mean, sort of at a basic mission level, the whole point of TidBITS and Take Control is to teach people how to use their Apple devices better. And if this is a way that we can, TCN is a way that we can reach a whole bunch more people through an intermediary, through consultants or resellers or other professionals, great. We're not picky about how we teach people how to use their stuff better. We just want to do it because it's so frustrating when you see someone doing something badly. Like the XKCD, there's something wrong on the internet.
Yes. So. All right. So it is tcn.tidbits.com.
Yes.
And Mr. Adam Engst of TidBITS and Take Control fame. Adam, thank you. It's been too long since we've had you on. We got to do it more often. I don't know what happens. We both get busy.
Yeah, so. There's all these things to do. That's the problem.
Yeah.
And bears to be.
Thank you so much, Adam. Good to see you.
Anytime, Chuck. Nice to be with you,
folks. I also want to say, Adam, his picture for me has been kind of synced and not synced, so the Skype gods were definitely fighting us. But the audio sounded good, so if you need to, just close your eyes and just imagine Adam in sync. Okay? Yeah. Thanks, Adam. That really helps a lot. Thank you. Until the next time, I'm Chuck Joyner. This is Mac Notables on Mac Voices. Back with more soon. Thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes, links to subscribe, and to connect with Chuck on Twitter, Google+, Facebook, YouTube, Vimeo, SoundCloud, the Mac Voices blog, the Mac Voices Dispatch, our weekly newsletter, and on MacVoices Magazine, free on Flipboard that helps you do more with your Apple tech. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com, bandwidth provided by CacheFly at cachefly.com.